All right, you guys. Hi, everyone. I'm Jared Carter. I'm your guys' host, and this is Whiskey Business. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be sipping on some Maker's Mark whiskey. I actually just found this out before we started taping. I had no clue, but it is actually all hand-made wax, all hand-done wax on the top of the bottle. So someone's job is literally just waxing the top of Maker's Mark bottles, which if this podcast thing doesn't work out, I think I might have to fall back on. We also have a very special guest. It's our first comedic guest, our first comedian joining us on the podcast. He's hilarious. Some might say that he has a Silver Fox, Jon Stewart vibe about him. He's pretty much the grandfather, the father, the one-all, be-all of the Chico comedy scene, Rich Morarre. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And Whiskey Business, I know you're not a big drinker, but I'm happy to see you cutting loose and having a few drinks.
Well, thanks for giving me the shot.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
So, obviously, you know, you've been on the scene for a while, and you're hilarious. You know, when I first started doing comedy,
go on.
when I first started doing comedy about like 6 months ago, you were one of the first people that I was like, wow, you know. And I think for on the scene, you probably have the most cerebral sense of humor, you know, the
thinky stuff.
Thought out,
yeah.
You know, there only half your set is dick jokes. So, yeah. So,
because I forget the other half.
But where do you think your humor came from? Was it someone in your family or?
Yeah. I mean, I think about it sometimes, and I'd have to say initially my grandmother, my grandparents both, they raised me from the time I could remember until I was about 5 or 6. And my grandmother she was hilarious. She was a little, you know, all over the place, but she was funny. She was a genuinely funny woman. And between her humor and my grandfather, when they weren't fighting, they were cracking up and poking at each other, but they fought more.
Yeah.
But they also introduced me to, at a really young age, to comedy albums.
Okay.
They had all the big names from the 60s, like Stiller and Mara albums, Red Fox. They let me listen to Red. I was 5 years old, and they're putting Red Fox on in front of me just because it was something for me to do.
He was crazy, too.
He was the foulest of the foul.
He was crazy.
Like, he would put comics today to shame, working back then what they called blue. You know, here it's explicit. But, and then comedy musical albums, things like that. They played a huge influence on getting me going. And then I think it was my grandmother that sort of planted that class clown seed.
Gotcha.
Where I started realizing that I get a certain sense of pleasure and enjoyment out of making people smile and laugh, which can be a blessing, and, you know, when you're in school, it can be a little bit of a holdback, but it established who I was in school, because I was shy, you know, I was smaller than a late bloomer, so I had to find something that was going for me, so I decided to just start trying to be funny.
So you knew from an early age that comedy was like your first love, kind of?
I just knew that I enjoyed it. I didn't think like someday I'm going to be a comedian or someday I'm going to be in movies doing comedy. And there was none of that. It was just, I just had a natural inclination to enjoying making people laugh or being snarky or smart.
Got you. And did you ever have any desire to do anything else, like musical or anything?
Oh, well, yeah, I
know that you play the instrument, you know, the guitar and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of joke, like, and usually, you know, people ask me, like, well, you know, so how'd you end up in comedy? I said, well, where do washed up musicians go? It's a stage, it's a platform. But yeah, throughout the 80s and halfway into the 90s, that was my aspiration. I thought I was going to be an established musician, as did umpteen million other people. And was relatively active in Atlanta in the early 90s. I was in a few bands. We were playing big venues and shows and stuff like that. And
that's awesome.
Played several instruments. That was my the fact that I could play 2 or 3 things. Spread it out, those of you that still think music's the way to go. But then started making kids, and that goes its course.
Detours.
Yeah, it pulls you in a direction, and then for good reason, and in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I went from music man to family man.
Are you from back around that Georgia area?
Lived most of my life in Georgia.
Gotcha.
But born and grew up in Maryland. Born in Baltimore, grew up south of Baltimore.
Gotcha.
Moved around for a minute. By the time I hit 18, 19, got to Georgia and kind of never looked back.
Gotcha.
I've been back to Maryland. I can count on one hand how many times I've been back to Maryland, and I still have 2 fingers left over. I loved where I grew up, but
Gotcha.
But Atlanta was definitely formative for me as a young adult.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hear of people going to LA for music and people going to Nashville for country music. How did you wind up in Atlanta for music?
Well, I ended up in Atlanta back in the early 80s, and you got to think Athens, Atlanta, there was REM was getting off the ground.
Yeah.
All of that was.
Well, you hear a lot of rappers come from Atlanta too.
Well, yeah, that was so 10 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was, you got the So Def, all of that movement coming out of Atlanta. It just became the Dirty South.
Yeah.
And that just blew up, and like, I won't say overnight, but it felt like overnight.
Gotcha.
In just a couple of years, suddenly Atlanta was, the Detroit of hip hop.
Gotcha.
So there was a lot of momentum with that, and which kept the entertainment, kept everything kind of stirred up and going.
So walk me through. It's the end of the 90s. You're in Atlanta still. And you're thinking, okay, music's not really working out. How did you get from there to doing comedy in Chico when I met you in the start of the end of 2019?
Well, I was doing to keep food on the table, so to speak.
Gotcha.
I was doing home renovation, remodeling. Started out as a carpenter, just had my tool belt and a little truck, and then in a year and a half's time, I'm running a company, my own business.
Gotcha.
Because there was such a vortex. It's like you just dabble into doing carpentry, and the next thing you know, you're just pulled in that direction. And so I was having to deal with people, subs, customers, everybody, on a daily basis. And part of my charm was to just crack jokes and keep people smiling. Everybody loved coming. All my subs loved me.
Gotcha.
Because I was amazing. But I had some subs that were like, you know what, you should do stand-up. You should try doing stand-up. And my aversion at that point was like, I couldn't do it. And they're like, why not? You're hilarious. You're funny. It's like, yeah, but you got to tell the same jokes over and over. I can't get up and tell the same jokes every night. I can't do that. I'd rather just make you guys laugh every day. Mm-hmm. And more, I kept hearing it, and I would just put it in the back of my head, like, I don't have time for that right now. Mm-hmm. And ended up, as Atlanta just kind of grew and just became just this juggernaut, which it's still doing.
Yeah.
It was no longer the city that I'd moved to and fell in love with. And I was like, I got to get out of here now. In my traveling years, I'd lived in Chico before. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm going to go someplace where it's smaller, get away from this traffic, get all of that stuff behind me.
Yeah.
Came back to Chico, and it was in getting here. After a couple of years, I started going out to open mics, checking out what the locals had to offer.
Yeah.
At that point, 2015. And I was like, I could do this.
Yeah.
I could totally do this.
Yeah.
And September something or other, 2015, I did my first open mic at the Maltese. When the Maltese used to be banging. It was,
the Maltese took both of our virginities.
Yeah. Well, she was good to me. I don't know about yours, but she was quite the tender lover for me, I tell you. It was a good set. First set was a great set. Whole first month I had already been writing stuff, and I'd already sort of established that I'm not going to get up and do the same set every time I go up there. I can't be, even if it means never getting my tight 5, which I'm probably not going to be a tight 5 comic, which there are people that may or may not see this that are like, oh well, too bad for you, but It is, I saw something on the other day I was reading, and somebody said, well, someone was was just doing their first mics. And I love the sound effect.
But I definitely see exactly what you're saying, and you're talking about with going from working and using comedy as a way to soften and kind of make the day, not as long, not as hard, and then thinking, you know what, like having people tell you should do this, and slowly gaining that confidence where you're like, I should.
The other thing that was a plus about it that I've only recently realized is that it helped me get over the idea of like being nervous about being funny in front of strangers, because all my clients, when I would meet them, I don't know them.
Yeah.
But I would just charm and humor my way in, and I realized, like, oh God, this is, kind of second nature. It's almost like being back in school. Only I didn't get in trouble for it. So
it was encouraged.
Yeah, I think all of us that are doing stand-up or on some level, or even just comedic actors to that extent, are, it's just, we were class clowns. I don't know about you, but I was a total goofball.
Yeah.
And it just stayed with me from like third grade all the way through high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm not alone, so comedy's kind of a place where it's found its place in who I am and what I have to offer.
Do you think part of becoming that class clown, and having that aesthetic that you talked about, do you think part of that was seeking attention?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But like I said, being a late bloomer, I never had a girlfriend.
Gotcha.
So I was super shy on the other social, avenues, platforms.
Yeah.
Too small to play sports. By the time I got to high school, I was more interested in other things that go with music.
Yeah.
So that was a whole other thing. But I was still, I was socially active to an extent. I was at the parties and this and that and the other. But no, it was what I had to offer at the time, because I didn't have a whole lot going on otherwise.
It's so funny because I could never see you as being shy. You're always the first one to introduce when there's a new person on the scene.
Oh, I mean, I was shy, like on the romantic scale.
Okay, gotcha.
So, which, and in high school, it's like if you don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend by ninth grade all the way through, then there's clearly something wrong with you. So I masked that with humor.
Yeah.
And it got me through. So
do you have any real funny comedic stories from going through high school? Anything that you did that was just, you still crack up over to this day?
No.
In your formative years,
in
nothing?
My formative years, there are tales that just come with like the stupid things that teenagers do.
Yeah.
But they all have long build-ups.
Gotcha.
Extremely long build-ups. I mean, some aren't so long.
Yeah.
The time my mom caught me masturbating on the sofa.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, short story. I think I just told it. Other things are a little, this one predates high school. I went from first grade to fifth grade without missing a single day of school. My mom sent me to school sick as a dog. Oh, she'd go to school, put your head down. If it gets bad, go to the nurse. But she was obsessed with perfect attendance. I would bring home my report cards, and that would be the first thing she would look at was the attendance. I was like, look, Mom, A's and 1B. Okay, 0 days missed. Okay, cool. And then, so they wanted to give me an award at the end of fifth grade when they had this graduation ceremony. Well, I had spent, my parents gave me money. You had to buy tickets to the event.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent my ticket money on cigarettes. Which every solid-footed fifth grader had to smoke cigarettes. Fifth grade. I'm walking around with a pack of cigarettes in my sock. And I got so freaked out that I didn't have 3 tickets. I only had their tickets. And I sold mine basically for drugs, the drug of nicotine. And so that day I faked sick. And I learned how, I don't know how, but I learned how to make myself throw up, and I made myself throw up so that I couldn't go get my award. I played hooky. I played sick the day of accepting my perfect attendance award. And it was all downhill from there. By 6th grade, I was just cutting class, C, B average at best.
Yeah.
So I had a good run. Elementary school was good. High school was just kind of a wash for me.
I understand that.
Yeah. Different things here and there. I mean, there was one incident in high school. I just got my driver's license. Super stoked, everybody is. And I ended up at this party, and a bunch of us end up climbing in this guy's car. And the guy driving, it wasn't his car, but we were going to make some kind of a beer run or something. We're driving along, and it's like some super fast 1970 Camaro SS thing.
That's awesome.
And, oh yeah, every car back then was awesome. And I'm in the passenger seat, and we're zooming along or whatever, and all of a sudden the lights come on behind us. And I was like, oh shit. And then the guy driving punches it. And we're flying along, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, I don't have my license. And I'm like, oh, great. So he's high-speed chase. There's a guy in the back seat who's he's got to feel more helpless than I do. And he's, keeping his mouth shut. Chasing around, cops, we almost wipe out. We almost go off the road. Eventually, this kid, Chris, I still know his name, Chris Cappy. Eventually, Chris pulls over and then jumps over into my lap. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, get over there, man. Look, just trade with me. I said, I'm not trading with you. We're like wrestling. He's in my lap. We're wrestling. Meanwhile, there's a tap. At that point, there's a tap on the window. And it's a cop. And I unroll the window, and there he is sitting on my lap. We both look up. The cop looks at him, and he says, you are under arrest. You get out of the car. And I was like, well, what did I do? Clearly, this explains itself. You see what's going on here. And they end up detaining me because as the licensed person in the car, the only licensed person in the car, I was responsible for everything happening in that car.
Oh, no.
That's how jaded the system is, folks. So, there, night in jail.
Great. That's what Whiskey Business needed, was a lawsuit from Chris Cappy.
Yeah. Chris, you still owe me. I had to, I had to do public service or something?
Yeah, public
I had to do
service,
public service with this asshole. We're out picking up trash and leaves and things like that. I didn't do anything. So,
Were you giving him the stink eye the whole entire time, the evil look?
No, we were just kind of like, oh, this is interesting.
Laughing about it at that point.
Yeah, it was a joke at that point.
Yeah.
So, anyway, don't drink and drive.
Well,
and don't ride and drive.
Yeah, don't.
If you don't get in the car without carding everybody. That's the lesson, the moral of this story. Cheers. Oh, I'm driving home, by the way.
So, where did
Maker's Mark.
Yeah, Maker's Mark. Oh, yeah, let's
and
actually...
about the cap, you know
let's
what?
do this real
Here's
fast.
the beauty of Maker's Mark, is like every one of those wax caps is like a snowflake.
It's like a snowflake. They're all individual.
None of them are identical.
I didn't even think about it like that.
See? I bring the thinky pain.
So it's so cerebral. So what is your review on Maker's Mark?
Love Maker's Mark.
We got to smell it. We got to do the whole
We gotta
shebang.
do the whole thing. Saw you on one sip, by the way.
One sip? Oh,
Stellar.
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I don't get the premise, but...
Shout out to Dylan Collins.
Dylan Collins.
Yes.
One sip, babe. One of these days you're going to grow up to the big stuff. Love Maker's Mark it's always been my go-to. Super smooth and
Great.
Bullet.
I love Bullet Bourbon.
It's so easy.
Yeah.
Those two, you cannot go wrong. You can't go wrong. Whether you're mixing it, whether you're just sipping on a straight whiskey with a few ice cubes, those two are like velvet for the money.
Yeah, I
like
cannot
velvet.
agree more.
And it's funny because I looked up something about Maker's Mark once and on Google.
What's
and
it?
now the Google News headlines things is always like whiskey's under $80 that are great when it's 100 degrees outside. Like I'm getting all these things about whiskeys.
Targeted ads.
Yeah, targeted. Yeah. And I don't even drink whiskey. Be careful.
See, I have a hot take on targeted ads. I actually kind of enjoy them. You know, like I like when I log onto Facebook and it's like, do you want a Japanese sex robot? And I'm like, you know what, Google? I do, but you already know that, didn't you? Like,
stay out of my wish orders. Stay out of my wish cart, Google.
Yeah, that's my hot take. Stay out of my Amazon wish cart.
Yeah, exactly. No, in today's climate, like the whole Facebook social media thing, it's like it's hard for me.
Yeah.
Like I've got brothers, I got family, and I realized today that social media, specifically Facebook, it's like take every irritating thing about your family and put it in a website. And that's what I'm dealing with now.
Your social media presence, like your social media game, is pretty admirable.
Yeah,
though.
thank you.
I
I try to walk the right path, and it's a great place. I don't like to stir things up, but if there's a question in my head or like something's going on that just clearly morally it's not even a question, I will speak on it or ask on it or do whatever. But in the meantime, I've got family members like borderline white supremacists. That's a tough spot to be in. Like, we don't even speak anymore.
Yeah.
But we hash it out on Facebook. So, and then in front of the world, for the world to see.
For the world to voice their opinion on.
Yeah. Yeah. His side and then my side.
Yeah.
And I've had that not even just with family, but just with people that I know recently. With all the stuff that's going on in the current climate.
Yes.
And between pandemic and then all the racial heat, I think where we are right now
with this Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter movement, it's kind of highlighted our duty, our responsibility, almost as white males, to speak up when we see other white males, saying things that aren't. They're not viable anymore. No. You can't have those opinions anymore.
Right.
And having worked in a lot of blue collar jobs here in the Chico area and stuff like that, I've had so many times where other white men have felt comfortable saying things to me that are, like you said, borderline white supremacists.
Oh yeah.
And I've taken it back, and so that's why seeing you address even strangers sometimes and say that this is not acceptable, I think it is. You are doing the right thing. No one can fault you for that.
Thank you.
But it's going to lose popularity.
My fan here.
Yeah, your fan here. The hard thing about being a comedian is that I see a lot of comedians who don't want to lose popularity over anything. Like Michael Jordan said, Republicans buy shoes too. Yeah. And they have that kind of viewpoint. And so how has it been for you being a comedian that on stage speaks your mind over these matters and stuff like that? I've heard you speak ill of Trump on stage and face backlash over your, first off, amazing Trump joke, but face backlash for that. How do you manage that and mitigate that?
Well, first and foremost, to backtrack just a hair, Michael Jordan's an asshole. There, got that out of the way.
Shots fired.
Woosah. Okay. If I'm crafting a Trump joke, which is hard to keep up with, by the way.
Yeah.
I used to have a chewing gum company called Truth Gum. Local Chico people, some people around the country, they may remember Truth Gum. But Truth Gum's concept was we had all natural gum, and each pack had 2 stickers in it that had a truth on it. And at the bottom of the truth, there was a link to a website where you could verify that it was indeed the truth. And it was a great concept. And we were, relatively neutral. We sprayed bullets, so to speak, both sides. And then Trump got elected, and we literally realized, like, we cannot keep up. We can't keep up with everything that this guy... Every sticker we would put out would be outdated in, like, 3 weeks. And that gets expensive. So we literally... Donald Trump shut our business down just by being Donald, just by being him. So, hats off to him. That well played, Don. But with my Trump jokes, I try to, if I can call it crafting, I don't know. I don't want to be that guy that just comes out like, Donald Trump's an asshole. Yeah, I want to work it.
Yeah.
I want to work it in a way that it might rub people the wrong way, but it should rub the wrong people the wrong way.
Yes.
And the right people are going to hear that and be like, oh shit, pretty clever.
Do you mind if I rehash the joke in my
Which
own
one is
terms?
it? Bring it, baby. It's got to be amazing.
My term that I think one of my favorite jokes I've ever heard Rich Morarre say, it goes like this, that if you were ever going to get into a situation where you needed someone to be on your side, the person that you would want in your corner is a Trump supporter. Because tomorrow Trump could come out and bomb a Trump supporter's own mother, killing his own mother, and he would say, well, she deserved it. You know, it's really, really bad. But basically, a Trump supporter is so ride or die that no matter how wrong you are, he will still be in your corner.
Which the beauty, he almost got it. He almost got it.
It's great because
like,
it gets
it's like
support.
playing that telephone game. I'm at one end of the line, and it's gotten to like 12 kids. Then what came out of his mouth is what it got turned into. But in general, that is the gist of the joke.
It's a great joke.
Yeah, and it's a backhanded compliment, because if a Trump supporter is listening to that joke, it's like, well, he's kind of saying we're hardcore, but he also, so it's, and it's also true.
Yeah.
Like, and I know this from what I was mentioning earlier about, like, I've got family members and stuff that are just, I came up with a term. I don't know if this is already a term or not, but I was out doing something, and the term Trump monkeys.
Trump monkeys
popped into my head, and it's like, that's kind of what, if it's not used already, it's like they're just trained. They're trained to do anything for that particular, like, they're going to get that peanut somehow, some way. Yeah. And with no real thought going into it, they're just doing it.
Yeah.
And this whole George Floyd thing.
Yes.
This is a true story. I was talking to my mom on the phone. My mom, 76 years old, staunch conservative, but she's a pleasant woman. She's sweet as can be. Absolute angel. We do not see eye to eye politically at all. And she is a Trump monkey. Sorry, Mom. She won't see this. She doesn't do the... Yeah, she won't see this. But she's an avid Trump supporter. And every time we talk, she's like, I know you don't like Donald Trump, but he's done a lot of good things. And I said, give me 3. If he's done a lot, I'll be happy to hear 3. And she can't do it. But she's got dementia, or on the verge of. So the next, she doesn't remember it. So the next time she calls me, it starts all over again.
Oh no.
And I said, Mom, give me 3 things. And so recently, she's like, well, he sent out all those checks. I had to break it down to my elderly mom. Like, Mom, I think Congress kind of has something to do with that. He did sign off on it. And then literally yesterday, I'm talking to her, and she said, I've been really down. I'm depressed.
Yeah.
And about what's going on, she goes, yeah, this whole George Floyd thing, that poor guy. She goes, and then, as if that wasn't bad enough, then the old guy in Buffalo, white guy, who got shoved down.
Those
I
terrible,
said, your president said that he faked it. Oh, he did what? He said, yeah, he said that man fell harder than he was pushed. Your president said that.
Yeah.
She goes, I don't know. I'm going to have to look into it. I said, please do. It's not hard to find. Mm-hmm. And she goes, anyway, so then the George Floyd thing, his funeral was here. Did you see any of the funeral? And I was like, no, Mom, I didn't. And she goes, it was so classy. I was like, classy? And she goes, I wonder if Donald Trump paid for that. And I was like, this conversation's, it's done. Like, that's where her head goes. She sees something and automatically tries to idolize, like, turn it into something. And now I have the responsibility of calling my mom back. I might even have to wake her up to do it.
Yeah.
And say, Mom, Floyd Mayweather paid for that funeral.
Wow.
Which he did, by the way.
That's impressive.
Yeah. But for that to be the take, there's so many people out there. Like, my mom sees a funeral, and automatically her brain, what's active in there, starts weaving this thing of, like, I see a funeral, obviously it's elaborate, Donald Trump must have paid for it. Like, that's the stock from whence I came, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Well, clearly you've made the changes to alter, to not get stuck in that way of thinking. But with, Trump, it almost seems to be his strategy to outpace the fact checkers with the amount of just pure nonsense
He's murder
spews.
on a comic. Yeah. He's so, like, there's no shelf life to a Trump joke. There's none. That's why I kind of came up with one that, like, sticks.
Yes.
It's like, it's not about a specific thing that he did. It kind of wraps up the last 3.5 years and the present. Mm-hmm. It's like, I can still do that joke. I don't like to do it all the time. But if I see Trump supporters in the audience, I'm prone to do it because they get worked up. They get pulled in.
They support the joke.
They support the joke.
Yes.
Unwillingly, I think. Or,
almost through
by the time the punch comes out.
Yeah, it displays their fault in logic.
Yeah.
Your joke does an excellent job of drawing in the people the same way that Trump does.
Yeah, but as far as specific actions that man does, you can't write a joke that lasts more than 2 weeks.
Do you think that loaded language and sound bites are going to be the way of the future for American politics?
Sound bites, yes. Because of what's become of the American attention span. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All it takes is a sound bite now. We live in a 5 seconds or less, 10 seconds or less society. That's how we like it. Mm-hmm. We want it quick, we want it fast, and we want it in a way that we don't have to do a whole lot of work thinking about it.
Exactly.
And between that and technology, it's like everything. We want to do less, we want to think less, we want to work less, until that's the scary part, until we're what? Until what's left of us. I'm a little apprehensive about that. And I'm as guilty as anybody. The other day I bought a wireless phone charger because somebody said, you should try it, man. It's awesome. You just come in, you set your phone down, it's charging. I was like, okay, I'll see. What's the big deal? It's the most amazing thing ever. It's fantastic. I walk in, I set my phone up, there's no fidgeting, there's no plugging, there's no thing that's going to get ragged out in a matter of however many weeks.
Yeah.
And as I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm like, God, this is what technology does. It's technology by design is so that we have to do virtually nothing. Mm-hmm. The closer we get to doing nothing, the more technology is doing.
So, do you think it's weird that we've had so many jumps in that type of technology, but then we still basically use the same combustible engine?
Yeah, that's a little weird. We're on the verge,
Yeah.
In the last 10 years, with Tesla, first the Prius was like, well, we'll meet in the middle, and Tesla's doing its thing. It's, what's amazing to me is that we went as far as we did with nothing but combustible stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they had a good run. They really did. But even like the big three here, they're like, well, okay, we're going to shift our focus towards, electrical, getting away from fossil fuels.
Gotcha.
Which is why I drive an 8-cylinder Dodge Dakota pickup truck, maybe 11 miles to the gallon.
Nice.
Because my logic is this.
Yeah.
America. Oh, I'm going to do that, America. The planet is not going to run out of fossil fuels on its own. It needs our help. I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I hate my truck, but it looks good. I started a home inspection business, so I got a truck that looks good. It was a good price.
Gotcha.
Terrible gas mileage. Atrocious gas mileage.
Yeah.
Like, if you really knew how much I got per gallon, you would end this. You would run me out of your yard.
No, I don't know about that.
You might run me around your yard. This is fantastic, by the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the compliment.
Somebody did well.
So what do you think about Elon Musk and that kind of celebrity scientist status that he holds?
That guy's a trip.
Right?
He is a trip. I don't know what to think about him. Like, he's obviously mentally and to some extent emotionally aimed in a good direction with what he's trying to do with the planet. But then there's other things like driverless cars and things like that I'm just like, well, that's getting a little... First off, it comes back to what I'm talking about. Yeah. We have to do less and less and less. That we can't even drive a car. But he's an enigma. Like, all of those guys they're just enigmatic to me. But I don't think about them too much because they just seem a little too obscure.
Gotcha.
That's an obscure dude. Jeff Bezos, he's an obscure dude.
Right.
All the big heavy hitters right now
Bill Gates.
Weird.
Yeah.
Bill Gates. Yeah. Since I went Mac.
Yeah.
I don't think about it. But he's out there.
Yeah.
That guy. Yeah.
What were some skills or moments or pieces of media, pieces of arts that were super influential on you, growing up during your formative years?
Yeah, that's a big question.
I know, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was my formative years and growing up, etc. It was primarily music as far as a media thing. It was primarily music.
Gotcha.
And I fortunately I had access to almost any music that I wanted because my grandparents and even into my mom got remarried and we got to be with her again.
Gotcha. What was on your playlist?
Oh, the Beatles initially.
The Beatles.
Beatles and Elvis.
Elvis.
We had awesome. My brother and I got a brother that's older than me.
Yeah.
Who's apolitical. Whatever his wife tells him he should do, he does.
Oh no.
But yeah, that's a whole nother story. But when we were kids, we had access to like anything. We saw 45. Can we get that? Yes. And so there was always music available to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I remember I was, again, coming back to my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 16, maybe 17 years old, I still, and in Maryland, middle American, suburban Maryland.
Yeah.
Didn't have a whole lot of outreach towards like different musical, efforts that were out there. And my grandmother comes to me with an 8-track tape. Yeah, he knows. He knows an 8-track.
Audience approval.
So did it fade out in track 1 or whatever, and then pick back up in track 2?
Yes.
Yeah. 8-track tapes, 4 channels or 4 tracks. It's like I never understood that. But my grandmother comes by and she brings me an 8-track tape of Bob Marley. My grandmother.
Yeah.
Brings me a Bob Marley 8-track. And I was like, who is this? And she goes, I don't know. I was at the gas station. He was on the display, and I saw you had long hair. I thought you'd like it. And so I have the luxury of getting to tell people that my grandmother unknowingly turned me on to Bob Marley.
That's great.
And it was, it was life-changing.
Yeah.
It was world-rocking. I'd never really listened or heard. I mean, I knew the hit that he had, and that somebody else did. But again, that's I was exposed to music that people didn't even realize they were exposing me to, but I had that freedom.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Those were the That's all I really cared about back in the day. And, but also, I liked comedy enough to have, in that decade, everybody had Big Bamboo. Mm-hmm. Everybody had the Cheech and Chong album. Everybody had Steve Martin's 2 albums, whether you were, aspiring in that direction or not.
Gotcha.
George Carlin's albums.
Yeah, George Carlin's amazing.
Yeah. I was discussing Class Clown with my girlfriend today. Just today. And I hadn't mentioned that album in ever. But it was a really, really good album. The guy was so far ahead of his time. So I had exposure to geniuses.
Yeah.
And in that, wow, this album's pretty good. And then hanging out with some guys we're cutting class, he's like, listen to this, I got this Richard Pryor cassette.
Richard Pryor.
And so we're riding around smoking weed, listening to Richard Pryor.
The way Richard would want, by the way.
Yeah. And, so those are things that I look back and I'm like, man, I'm really glad I had that.
Yeah.
It really helped in an otherwise sort of bland, mundane, still a virgin existence that was mine throughout my teenage years.
Yeah.
So, it helped fill voids.
So I heard this recently that comedy is tragedy plus time. That's what comedy equals, is that it's just tragedy plus time. How do you feel about that statement, and what do you think are some of your tragedies that pushed you into comedic?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't really get it, the tragedy plus time thing.
I don't really understand it either.
It sounds really deep and really philosophical and all this. It's like, I don't know about tragedy plus time. It's like, I'm a smart ass. I don't know if that's part of the equation of me being a smart ass. So be it, and somebody is welcome to explain it to me. But the tragedy plus time, tragedy plus time just sounds like depression.
Tragedy plus time equals
tragedy
depression.
Plus time equals depression. Don't be fooled.
Don't be fooled. Oh,
let's drink to that.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
That's a great moment to take a drink. I want to talk to you about the Chico comedy scene.
Oh, here we go. Hold on. Let me
Yeah, another one. You've been on the
now
scene.
I'm ready.
You've been on the scene since 2015, so for 5
Yes.
years. What are some of your highlights from the Chico comedy scene?
Highlights from the Chico as personal highlights?
Personal
or just
highlights.
Things
I want
that
to hear.
I've been witness to.
I want to hear what are your best moments from being on this scene. I mean, this scene is a fun scene. There's a lot of great people on it.
There's a lot of great, and it's always it's had its ups. It's had its really dark downs.
Mm-hmm.
When I first partook, is that even a word?
I don't know how to say it. Yeah.
Partook. The past tense of partaken. Anyway, when I first got involved with the Chico comedy scene, it was amazing. It was jumping.
Gotcha.
The Maltese was the mic at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And every night there'd be 20 comics minimum.
That's awesome.
So you get on the stage, get off the stage, and it was a lot of fun. But coming from my background and my everything else about me, like my age, everything else, my demographic, so to speak, it was like the scene aspect is like, I'm not going to really get into this whole scene thing because I don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't fit on a plethora of levels. But it was okay. I got along with everybody. I can do that. But starting out there was a blast. And it was like, the Maltese was like a comedy club.
That's awesome.
That first year, from 2015 to the end of 2016, early 2017, the Maltese was amazing.
Yeah.
And then it all just kind of came unraveled, and there were several factors, some of which I felt good about. Like, there were good comics that were branching out and heading elsewhere.
Gotcha.
And it was bittersweet because it means we didn't get to have them here. But at the same time, they were doing their thing, and getting off the ground. And that was like inspiring for me, and being the elder or one of the elders. I felt kind of proud, even though I was relatively new on the scene. I wasn't hadn't been around from the beginning, but seeing these people moving upward, it felt good.
Naturally.
Yeah. Because, whether I was in the clique, the scene or not, there was still sort of a family vibe that we're all willing to get up and do this thing.
Yeah.
So we're all, whether we're, I was just sort of I was kind of an outcast, but still in.
Yeah. I feel similar.
It was sort of the Stone Cold Steve Austin of the Chico comedy scene. And I still, in some ways, I love everybody, even to this day, because people have come, people have gone. I dipped out for a year when it got really... are we able to swear?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Feel free to speak openly. Yeah.
It got shitty.
It did.
It got really shitty. And I was like, I don't need any part of this. And I was at the same time also starting a new relationship. And so I had a one-person captive audience at home that laughed at everything I said. I was like, oh, this is even better. And then we'd have sex. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, sex not included in open mics is the worst part about open mics.
Take it from me, you don't want open mic sex.
Nope.
That's a dark road.
That's a Phil Corbin road.
Yeah, for another podcast.
Phil from Chico.
So I laid out for a year before I was just like, you know what? And I had aspirations in my head. I was like, I got to go to Sacramento. I got to get out of here. I got to do this, got to do that. And, but then I got back into it.
Yeah.
And realized okay, things have shifted. Things have changed. People have gone. New people have come in. And then those people have gone.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy. There's a very positive vibe in the current Chico community, comedy scene, so to speak. But I have a wanderlust anyway, and so there's this part of me. It's like, okay, I've hit the ceiling here.
I'd say so.
And I don't know what I'm not that guy that's willing to drive down to... I used to be.
Yeah.
I started driving down to Sac for, a 5-minute open mic here, 5-minute open mic there.
Rough.
And it's a long drive back. It's a great drive down. It's like, oh, this is going to be fun. And then it's like, the drive home.
I think all Chico comics can relate to that, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone who's gone from a Chico and gone down there. Yeah.
Carl's Jr. Men's Room.
Yeah.
Every Chico comic knows the Carl's. Not even comics. Everybody that drives to Sac knows the Carl's Jr. Men's Room. You walk in and the urinal's right there at the door. It's like, boom, the door hits it. I know that bathroom like the back of my hand. But I still aspire to get to other places and do comedy because there is a ceiling here.
There is.
It's a great place to develop. It's a great place to dust off your chops, do whatever you're going to do, figure out what works, what doesn't. But the downside is every place is different. Every place is different.
Yeah.
I could come up with a killer set here and take it down to Sacramento, and go to Luna's on a Tuesday night and just bomb.
Yeah, it doesn't even work,
Yeah, and then I'll do stuff that bombs here, take it to Luna's, and they eat it. Yeah, they eat it up. Comedy's fickle.
What do you see as your influence on the future of the comedy scene? What do you see as what do you hope to bring to the table for new comedians? And do you want to get out of Chico? Is that what you're kind of saying?
I do want to get out of Chico. It's something that I've wanted to do for 2 years.
Gotcha.
2 to 3 years. So it's always been cooking back here.
Yeah. basically since you said the end of when the Studio Inn was at its peak. So basically
Or the end of the Maltese.
Or Maltese, I meant. Not
The Studio Inn is just such a crapshoot. It's
rough.
It's just a roll of the dice, and
yeah,
you either leave sitting super flush, or you emotionally just gambled your house away. It's just it's like you're like Nicolas Cage in Leaving Las Vegas. It's like, oh, I can't even speak anymore. This is so bad.
That's funny.
So, I don't know. It's an interesting question because I just want to continue developing what I have to offer.
Yeah.
It's hard for me here because of my age, my experiences, and this, that, and the other. It's like I do comedy in front of people that I feel like, you know what? Your parents would love me. Your parents would eat me up. I would be it.
Yeah.
But you're not your parents, and I don't have dick jokes, I don't have poop jokes, I don't have Tinder jokes, and drugs, Tinder, whatever. It's like those are big here.
They kill here, yeah.
Yeah, people love those. I don't have those. I tried.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, nah, this is just me trying. I mean, it was accurate. I think I had a Tinder joke years ago. I was like, you know what, I'll check out this whole Tinder thing.
Yeah.
And, my Tinder joke was something to the effect of, I guess it's where you go if you want to, for people my age, if you want to meet University of Phoenix grads with 3 kids, they like to shoot guns, and they like to take pictures with their friends that are a lot hotter than they are. Like, that was what, my target
options,
on Tinder, my options. And they were all looking for the real thing.
Yeah.
Not looking for a hookup. It's Tinder. Why are you on Tinder not looking for a hookup? Shut up. You're looking for a hookup.
Yeah.
With any luck, he's 26. But, my Tinder joke was as short-lived as my Tinder career. Like, it was this big.
Yeah.
And anybody else my age that was experiencing Tinder would get it. But
yeah.
The people that were in the audience, they're like, hey, that's not what Tinder's about. Not my Tinder. Everybody's version of Tinder is different.
Yeah,
that's
depending on your age. Yeah.
Right or swipe left.
Yeah.
I still don't understand. Is the finger going to the right or is it going to the left?
Yeah, and it's all, depending on like what's your mileage, how far are you willing to go to get disappointed. Definitely. Or, are you going to keep it local? So it's different for everybody, whereas Facebook, it's just a general mess. That's the beauty of Facebook, is everybody can relate to what a shit pile Facebook is.
Yeah.
But, the Tinder thing, it wasn't for me.
Tinder's kind of like Amazon Prime, like watching TV on Amazon Prime. It's like, really, these are my options for the shows? Like, really? Like, I don't know. Why wouldn't you just go to Netflix?
Thank you. Yeah.
Real life. Why wouldn't you just go out there?
Tinder and Amazon Prime in my life, both are this big.
Yeah.
I don't need to do Amazon Prime. I don't get that much stuff shipped.
Yeah, that's fair.
Nice try, Jeff. Not falling for it.
Well, you have chickens. You have. You seem to be a lot more down to earth than a lot of the Chico comedians speaking about that. You like have a relationship. You have a house. You have some responsibilities that I would say most of the Chico comedians that live at their grandmas and their parents don't have.
Because I'm as old as their grandmas and their parents. It's like that's the other thing for me. It's like I kind of feel like the bus driver on this really weird, fucked up field trip, and we don't even know where we're going.
No.
But it's kind of like I'm the teacher that has to go on this field trip.
Yeah. The chaperone.
The chaperone. Thank you. I get the chaperone vibe a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it, so to speak, but I do sort of long for the kindred, sharing of a comedy environment with people that are my own age, and those aren't here.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing with Chico. Everybody my age here they're at home.
Yeah.
And they're doing the home thing.
That's Sacramento, though. Like you said, that's spreading out.
Yeah.
And I was going to comment earlier that when you were saying, the dick jokes and the drugs and the Tinder jokes do real well here, having had a good dick jokey, Tinder jokey, set that I brought down to Sacramento, it does not kill everywhere,
Right.
And that's the thing about it, is that Chico is a good place to work on your comedy, but the humor is so select here.
Yeah.
But it can be kind of rough.
And it's what's misleading is that when you can work on those dick jokes and the shit jokes and everything else, and when people respond in a positive way, you can't help but think, oh, that worked.
Yeah.
And you jot that down, and you got to be careful. It's really the hardest. I honestly think one of the hardest things about comedy is learning to know the room.
Mm-hmm.
It is really, really hard, and I think of myself as somebody that can piece things together, and it's still tough.
It's hard.
I can go down to Sacramento and start laying out something that is like a conceptual piece or whatever, and it falls so flat. And then try it again in a month, and it kills.
That's good, yeah.
So it's just knowing the room, and it's part of the thing about the tight five that has always bugged me. It's you're basically saying fuck the room. I'm doing my 5
pretty much
until I have it honed down.
Yeah.
Audience be damned. I'm doing my tight 5. And it's going to hit, it's going to miss, it's going to do different things at different times. But you got to give the audience the credit and the benefit of the doubt of being the audience. Mm-hmm. That's why you're doing the comedy. Otherwise, what's the point?
That's why I have respect for comedians like Phil, who it almost seems like they haven't even thought out a set, before they get on stage. That almost takes a its own type of thing. But like you said, I think that some of the Richard Pryor, the greatest comedians, they had their sets pretty, set up for the 5 minutes. They had their 5 minutes set. If you were going to branch off, do you think that you would try to become more of a professional comedian if you started investing in driving down into Sacramento, as opposed to doing it here in Chico?
No. See, at my age...
Gotcha.
At my age, moving to Sacramento first makes way more sense than driving down, driving back, driving down. Dylan Collins, the man's insane. The boy, to drive as much as he's down and back, down and back, down and back. Gets a DUI. Gets his grandmother to drive him by. Yeah. He's got drivers. He's got and that ambition, to do that much driving. At 22 or 23, 24, I probably had it. I don't have what it takes to do that much driving right now, and it makes more sense to me on every front. Mm-hmm. Look, if I'm going to do that, I should move there.
Yeah.
And that's not off the it's not off the table, and it's been discussed in my relationship and everything else, because it was known from the beginning. I'm kind of ready to get out of Chico. Mm-hmm. And then I fell in love. No, so glad I did.
Yeah.
And I'm my lady is amazing. My little lady, as my mother calls her. You better get over there to your little lady, which she can't stay. Paula, my girlfriend's name is Paula. Am I allowed to say that?
You want to give your social security number too?
I don't know hers. Yeah. I'll memorize hers and I'll come back. Get back to you. No, but she's amazing, and she's a huge fan of comedy, and she's very forgiving, and because at this point in my life, all I have to write jokes about. What are they looking at? What are you guys looking at?
The dog eating cat.
I'm getting deep here.
The dog eating.
I'm going into my heartfelt
audience distractions.
I'm waiting for Paula's social security.
Yeah,
this is the problem with having a live audience.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes this way. Huh.
But she understands that
she has that empathy almost towards you.
Well, no, she just understands. I'm not gonna make up jokes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna joke about what's going on in my life, because that's what I do. That's all I got, is what I have to work with. And you know, and she lets me know when she's like, you know what, I don't like that joke. And I'm like, that's why I do it.
That's why I do it.
Yeah, because for everybody that doesn't like that joke, there's going to be 4 people that do.
Yeah.
And they get it, you know. And she knows also, like, I'm not misogynistic. I'll do jokes that sound chauvinistic or whatever because I'm making fun of chauvinistic people. You know, it's not that I'm a chauvinist, but she's very good in that. And I'm corny, so corny. And she laughs at every corny thing I do. Yeah. She's like, you're so corny. And I'm like, if you're going to laugh, I'm going to keep being corny. I'm going to keep being cheesy. And women. You can...
Rom-coms, yeah.
Yeah. Cheesy. The cheesier you are, like...
Have you ever seen a rom-com and been like, this is a real love story? No, the guy doesn't do anything boneheaded.
No.
That guy doesn't exist.
Right.
Did you ever at any point want to do comedic acting? TV or movie-wise?
I want to do comedic writing.
Oh, okay.
That's really kind of my more... That's... You know, granted, I have all the looks. Look at this fresh coif.
Camera friendly.
Yeah, I'm very... You should have seen me earlier. Because I took a picture. I should show you. Where's my phone?
Pull it up. You'd have to send it to me, though, so I can put a flash on the screen now when you're referencing it.
Okay. All right, hold on a second.
If you're okay with it being leaked, that is.
Oh, dude. It's worth leaking.
It's worth leaking.
Look at this guy. Look at this. That was me earlier today.
Oh, that's great. That is a great haircut, right?
Yeah. That was 3.5 months of quarantine right there.
You look a bit like an evil scientist.
Yeah. I kind of got this Leatherface hair now, too. Like the original. Yeah.
I think we could cut that in.
Yeah,
we're going to have to definitely
work
put that in
there. It's worth doing. We get a before and after, and you'll do a still shot from this.
Yeah.
So who are some of your favorite comedians on the Chico comedy scene?
Oh.
And include past names as well that I might not know. I would love to hear, that as well.
Out of Chico comedy, love him to death. Hit or miss. Phil has just got what it takes to be on stage.
Yeah.
He really does. It's funny because he's been posting stuff lately of like sets, back when he did sets of jokes.
In New York.
Wow, in New York. And even when he got back, like I saw Phil do a set at LaSalle's, the new non-ratchet LaSalle's, which is no fun whatsoever. And it was like one of the best sets of comedy I've ever seen. He really has what it takes to be comfortable and take control of a room. Mm-hmm. And that's inspirational. There's something about Phil that I think everybody feels like God, I love this guy.
Yeah.
Even when he's up there being just a wreck.
When he's being Phil.
It's still like there's something about Phil that you can't help, for me anyway, I can't help but feel like it's inspirational for me to learn to be comfortable on stage. Yeah. Even if I'm going through if I'm going to get up and talk about something that's just heart-wrenching, he'll put his heart right out there.
Yeah, he will.
And that's impressive to me. Mm-hmm. But he's also got such an amazing sense of humor.
He's probably the most messed up person on the comedy scene too, speaking about he has a lot of personal demons, which I think a lot of great comedians have. He spoke about that and he said that he thinks you kind of have to have these demons to be funny. Do you agree with that?
People have been telling me that forever, and I don't agree.
Yeah.
I don't agree.
You just don't
I think you can be funny without being a wreck. I think you can be funny. I think you can be funny without having heavy trauma in your life.
Yeah.
I think you can be funny and your dad still paid attention to you. There's this whole running thing now.
Yeah.
You wanted attention for so bad.
I think a lot of traumatized people want to. The reason why I'm funny is because I'm traumatized.
Yeah. Ray Romano does this thing. His whole spiel of thanks for not paying attention to me, Dad. I'm a world famous comic now. And I mean, for me, it's not a matter of trying to get attention on that level. I from at a teenage, phase of my life, from aspiring to be on stage and entertaining people. I've always had that drawing. and I've found an outlet for that. Like I can still get on the stage, I can still entertain people, and I'm not forcing it.
Yeah.
You know, Chico comics come and gone. It's one of the things I was mentioning earlier about people getting off the ground. It's really it's heartwarming and uplifting for me to see Becky Lynn.
Yeah, she's doing really good.
She's doing great, and to know that, like, I remember when, you know, with Becky, and to see that she has stayed the course as well as she has. And like myself, it's like there's nothing about her comedy that's not that's not believable.
Yeah.
Like she's drawing on life experience, and she's doing it in a really well-crafted way.
Yeah.
And that's inspirational for me. Even, you know, I don't know, 20, 30 years her senior. Like I'm still new in the scene enough to feel like that inspires me.
Yeah.
Scott Powers, who used to be here, I fucking miss that guy.
I've heard a lot of him on Facebook.
Oh my God, he's so funny. And his stage presence is just so
That's
good.
awesome. Yeah.
Which is like, and you know, but it's hilarious because I would ask Scott, I would be like, hey, how come you don't come in and listen? He's like, I'm a anxious mess. I sit out in the patios because I have so much anxiety. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He's got anxiety. He stays out of the room, and then he comes in and just owns the room and then leaves. But his joke writing, everything, like it's just crafted well. It's like, and I wish he was still here, and I'm glad for him that he's not.
Yeah.
And the rest, Jacob McLean right now.
Jacob McLean's good.
I'm going to go as far as to say even above myself.
Wow.
I think Jacob McLean, I enjoy when he gets on stage more than anything I have to offer. Whether, you know, no matter what he's doing, he's just, and also I've watched him
grow.
I've watched him come into a place of the stage is a comfort zone for him now. And he gets up there and owns it, and it's great.
He called me out for a roast battle, and his reasoning was because I looked like an easy target.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I kind of want to roast him.
I kind of want to too. I'm excited for it.
I almost wanted to write, you know, if I've got some jokes, I got some roast jokes for him that if I didn't want to do them myself, I would sell them to you later. or something.
I just think the asterisk that he put on our roast is probably my first roast joke, which was that he said that I can't bring up the mangina pic. So I'll let you decide what that means.
You can't bring up the mangina.
I'm not allowed to show anyone the mangina pic.
That's, you know what? That's between you two. This is what I'm talking about. I don't want to get all but so involved with anything going on in the Chico comedy scene, and that's a little deep.
Whoa.
All pun intended.
All pun intended.
All pun
yes.
intended.
Very, so deep.
Yeah.
You were the clear first choice for me to have I've had two other guests before you, but they were both neighbors, friends. You were the clear first choice as far as comedians go, because everyone else on the scene, for lack, please blush.
Hold on, I'm getting kind of. Hold on. I'm getting a little.
We need to call McLean over here and make it a party. Yeah.
Cut.
But you were the clear first choice because everyone else kind of has a similar story to me. At least we're young, we're from Chico, and we're starting comedy.
Right. And
your story is so unique. Your perspectives, and you can tell that from the moment you get on stage. You said you felt like a little bit of a cast out, no, not a cast out, but on the sidelines, I guess, when you first started. And still to this day, I get that vibe, but in a good way, that you're different than all of us,
Yeah,
and,
I'm very sidelined as far as the scene is concerned, but I'll hit you on the ass on the way out to the field. Hey man, go get it. I'm connected to. We're on the same team.
Yeah,
but I'm a little, You've
avoided the drama pitfall that even I have, found myself in. How did you do that? How did you avoid because the scene breeds drama?
Yeah, but I'm like, by not getting too close in the first place.
Gotcha.
That's really what it boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, it's just knowing like I wasn't even inspired to get that close.
Yeah.
Because I'm ancient.
Doing your own thing.
I'm old. I'm not, aside from doing my own thing, I'm old. It's like I know drama when I see it. Plus, and I've lived through 30-something drama, 20-something, 30-something drama. I've already done all that. I see it. I recognize it for what it is. And it's like, you guys can have that.
Yeah.
You know, when I ring the bell, it's time to come to class. You know, that kind of thing. But, it's funny because, I was mentioning being a late bloomer in school. And it's kind of like with comedy, it's the same thing. Like, I waited till I was 51, 52 to even get going. And, the beauty of that is, people that start out at your age, by the time you're 40, people are going to be like, man, have you seen Jared? He's not aging well or whatever. Like, you start out at 52, what's the anything that anybody's going to say is, oh, he's holding up.
Yeah.
He's holding up well. Yeah. Has he had work done? I don't know. Because I've gotten all that, like, all the self-abusive stuff, all the stuff that most of the comics are churning through now.
Going through.
I've already gone through it, and it's behind me.
So
it's a different vantage coming into doing something like comedy.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you want to plug that you're doing right now? Anything that you want to tell the audience about it? Where to find you? No,
because I suck at that. I have no internet presence. You go to YouTube, you won't find me. I don't have a YouTube. I really lack what it takes to get up and going and on that level.
Are you thinking about doing anything like that? Starting a podcast? I know you...
I have an idea for a podcast.
Well, then we got to keep it hush-hush.
We got to keep it hush-hush.
Yeah.
In fact, and then today, I'm not going to keep this hush-hush.
Gotcha.
Because it just came to me today, and I don't think I'm going to do it, but I think it would be a great idea for a podcast.
Let's hear it.
Fucking Up Breakfast. With your host, Rich Morarre. And I swear I may end up doing this.
That's great. That's
just
fantastic.
To have like a camera going. I stress out. So,
I saw the logo when you said it. I saw the F, 2 eggs, fucking up breakfast.
Man, break a yolk, I come unleashed. It's ridiculous. Someone should call the police if I break a yolk. Like, I should be that guy on the ground getting cuffed and everything. I just go ballistic. There's and for me, because breakfast is that meal where everything has to be hot at the same time. Dinner, you can have a cold beverage, a room temperature wine, it doesn't matter. But breakfast, the coffee has to be hot, the eggs have to be just right, the hash browns have to be, everything has to be warm at the same time. And that is like humanly impossible for me. I can't do it, and I try, and I feel really bad for every living thing in my house because they have to witness what becomes of me over something that's simple. And then there's the whole the voices start going there like, Rich, this isn't about breakfast. This is some other shit going on here, dude. It's like, yo, you kidding me? Look at that yolk. So I'm like back and forth on that. But I thought that's kind of like a good idea for a podcast.
It's a great name for a podcast. Fucking up breakfast.
We'll talk.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. And then my other one has to do with being incarcerated.
Which is a great idea for a podcast.
But it's only comics.
That includes
Don't
half
steal
of
this
Chico's
anybody,
comedy scene.
because I'm already working on it.
Yeah.
But it's the idea is comedians share stories of when they were incarcerated, locked up, detained, and it's called That's My Time, Served.
That's my time.
That's my time, ... served.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Yeah, we'll talk on that too, because I honestly believe in those two concepts. The latter more than the former, because the former just came to me.
Half of Chico's comic population has been incarcerated, and the other half is currently incarcerated. So that's a great idea for a podcast.
Exactly. House arrest, I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll come to you, no problem.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I would like to do something, but I know so little about it. And it's kind of my thing. It's like, I'm a great idea guy.
I didn't let that stop me.
I don't know how to facilitate.
Yeah.
I mean, I could learn if I had the time and this and that and the other, but I'm more like, I like to come up with the idea.
Yeah.
And if someone can help me from there, I'll gladly do what I can. But that's where I need help.
Yeah.
From that point forward. That's all the time we have today on Fucking Up Breakfast. Join us tomorrow. I'm going to try waffles in an iron.
This has been our guest, Rich Morarre. I'm your guys' host, Jared Carter, and this has been Whiskey Business. Thank you so much.